recording.
Well, I am now.
Now you are?
Yes.
You don't have to clap, though.
Yeah, we don't, because I am live in the studio.
Live in studio.
Because I am here.
You don't have to clap because I am here. We'll get there.
Someday, after John allows us to again.
Right.
Yeah. Why aren't we allowed to currently?
There's
You
a
know why
soft
we're not allowed
anime.
There's a ban of
Oh, yep. We're putting that on hold temporarily. Yeah, it's fair.
No, but yes.
Well, yes.
There is
no.
no. We don't need to talk about this in front of the kids.
No.
The two kids.
We are the standard
What?
American family.
Yes, three lads from North Dakota and their two kids.
Sorry. I laughed way harder at that than I should have.
Probably shouldn't have left.
No. Bad idea.
Especially considering the state of life one of us is in.
Oh, yeah. Good gracious, good
This is a
gravy.
Catholic podcast.
We get more crazy when we're in person.
Oh, certainly.
Well, there's like we can pick up on his aura just physically by being near him.
His vaguely threatening aura.
As it is, I'm sitting like, a few feet apart from them. They're facing each other, and I'm just kind of looking on at both of them.
Scoot like it. The arm will
There's
reach
just
over a bit.
there's no way to make this like sit nicely,
True.
Like
I can swing myself, so we can just it'll be
we
Riley
can
and I
all just
staring at
stare
each other.
Yeah.
With this
here,
setup,
ignore the springiness of the springs when I move the
Audibly
thing.
moving chairs.
audibly moving
Probably
chairs.
actually.
Nope, and dropping things.
I mean, probably.
Well, it's Holy Week as of when we're recording this, and probably
Hence
when
why
you'll be listening to
Mr.
it.
Seminary Man is.
That's
back
why
from
I
seminary.
am here.
He is here for the Holy Week that will be celebrating the Passover and the Passion and Death and the Resurrection of our Lord. We get a Holy Week this year,
We do.
theoretically.
I mean,
we
we
can-
had one last year, technically speaking, but not
we-
like
We didn't
liturgically.
get to be in a in a church.
We can go to the Triduum outside of the basement this year, which is nice because watching Mass on TV is not
is
fun.
ontologically null.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they used to do mass in people's basements almost exclusively
Right.
back when
Under very different circumstances.
under extremely
With a
different
cleric
circumstances.
and physically
yes,
present.
in
yes.
there,
Yep.
in the basement.
But be that as it may, we are in our basement. What is new with the boys? Besides Riley being here.
Well, yeah,
That's the
Not
most
much.
cool and
there
fun
isn't a
new
whole
thing.
lot
Yeah.
that's like new with me. I mean, school and stuff happened. I'm still doing the things I'm doing. Not a
I
lot
am
happened.
also still doing the things I'm doing.
I had a younger brother that turned 21 last
Indeed.
week, so I went
Indeed.
home to see
I was also
them.
there.
There was lots of people there. Your brother-in-law was there. My
And her
sister-in-law was there.
and her parents.
And, yeah, her parents were there. So it was just a solid. We technically broke COVID rules, but let's face it, two families getting together that are that are homeschooled Catholics is more than 10 people.
Yes.
Oftentimes,
One
one
family.
family that is homeschooled Catholics is more than 10 people.
Yep. It's kind of a weird retrospective when you think about this year versus this time last year. It's like, huh?
Yeah.
I just made an effort to purge that whole thing from my memory. It's like
Yeah.
I have zero recollection of that.
Last year happened? What?
Just Minecraft and job applications is all I can remember from that period. And The Witcher 3. And starting this podcast, I suppose.
So a lot
We
of
started this
things,
podcast before.
Just before, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like
yeah.
that February, I believe. But yes.
I remember last year I had Isaac up because it was around his birthday and I wanted to hang out with him anyway for a week, and then I returned him and then everything locked down.
Nice.
Yeah.
You should have just not brought him back home. That's your fault. That
Could
set
have
off
held
the
him
whole
captive
thing.
here the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes. causation, not correlation. That's always.
That's how that works.
That is how that works.
Yeah. I am looking forward to a short week of work and another short week of work the next week after that, because I get Friday and Monday off, which is nice. Perks of working at a Catholic organization. You find those occasionally.
I mean, depending on how you work, I imagine there will be times in Riley's future where he works the entire weekend of Easter.
The things that you have off, I shall not.
Mm-hmm. By and large. With some, well,
because he will work almost exclusively on holidays.
Yeah. Because they are holy days, after all, the majority of them anyway.
Yes, and he has an obligation to do them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll have.
He's an obligation to enable other people to fulfill their obligations.
Welcome to Cafe Independence. How can I enable you?
Welcome to Sacramental Grace. I was going to take that song.
If you had just said words, the bit would have probably at least had some thrust to it. But
yeah.
No, it doesn't, because you had to break down and explain how and why you broke down.
Now
we're explaining why and how you broke down, and this is the new joke. Welcome to the new joke, folks.
Yes.
Where we explain why James is bad at making jokes.
Yes, I'm like Marlin in the first act of Finding Nemo, where he cannot tell a joke straight.
But then at the end of the character arc, you will be able to tell a joke because you're more comfortable in yourself.
I'm more comfortable in my identity as a clownfish.
Yes.
Or Marlin is, not me.
You will be more comfortable in your identity as a clownfish.
Okay.
By the end of the movie, after you save your son from an Australian guy.
Anemone.
Eminem.
Anemone.
Like Finding Nemo, but it's Rap God.
I could see Eminem doing like a synopsis of Finding Nemo while like rapping it. That would be and then like somebody would have to edit the movie so that it's to the right speed, of course.
Or you just sentence mix from every rap he's ever done. He's probably said enough words.
More than likely.
I mean, look at what people do with Morshu.
And he only says like
he
two
said he has
lines.
literally 2 voice lines, and people make entire songs out of it.
So funny.
Someone sentence mixed him doing Rap God, in fact. Which
That's
is
so in the slant. You kind of had to have subtitles to.
The song is so fast that it's just like totally
it's like I'll take your word for it, kind of a thing.
He did release like a half-speed version where you can actually kind of sort of hear it, but it just doesn't have the same impact as Morshu just pointing all over the place like 5 times every second.
Yep. Just like the rapid motion. RTX on Morshu.
Morshu being the merchant from Link: The Faces of Evil, the random Zelda CDI game that everyone loves to meme on because
it's just so memeable.
It's just so memeable.
And sort of rip-off Zelda.
Well, what happened there is Nintendo was like, they wanted to make a CD add-on to the Super Nintendo because Sega was doing that, and it's like, well, we can't be left behind technologically, and we don't want to make a new console yet, so hey, Sony, you want to help us make a CD add-on? And we're like, sure, we'll make a whole new console for you. It's like, actually, how about no, let's work with Philips. Well, screw you, we'll make the PlayStation instead.
Yeah.
And so then their deal with
Everyone
Philips,
knows that Philips went on to create all sorts of great games and consoles.
Well, that's
like
the thing.
Your DVD player.
They also broke the like agreement with Nintendo and Philips also kind of broke down, but Philips still had the rights to make 3 Zelda games and a Mario game.
The Nintendo PlayStation was almost a thing.
It was. That could have been an interesting thing that almost happened but didn't.
But
instead, we got Super Nintendo going to 64, and then the CDI with some leftover copyright to make
extra steps.
A couple of stupid games that just get memed to hell because their cutscenes are so awkward. So good.
So now you know.
There's your random Nintendo
Luigi. Don't be a dinophobe.
It takes all colors to make a rainbow.
We'll leave it there.
That's such a.
Speaking of leaving it there, we are to.
Speaking of rainbows.
Oh God! What? No.
This banter bit hasn't gone on nearly long enough.
It's gone on the standard.
The standard should be 15 minutes, but we always cut it short.
Yeah. Well,
we have received some comments and complaints and concerns through non-official sources that maybe our banter could be cut down a little bit.
Are they listed if they don't come through the email?
Okay, people. If whoever it is among you that's saying that, I'm sorry, but you're objectively wrong. Banter bits on most podcasts go usually at least 15 minutes is around a pretty typical thing.
Which is about a quarter of our total runtime.
So that's totally cool. 10 minutes is definitely like well under what's common.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to be common or do we want to stand out?
But I think our banter bits are really fun when we don't just say, "Hey, what'd you do this week?"
Hey, what's
true?
Would we just say random garbage like we usually do?
And it's also just easier to do that when you're not over Discord, though.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time,
because when we're doing that, there's more catching up with you we have to do. Like, get out of the way. We almost need a 15-minute visit before we start the podcast so that we don't have to just talk about the things in our life for 15 minutes and then
the more you know.
I think it's fine to do that a little bit, but you gotta meme it, you gotta joke it.
We gotta be fun to listen to and hang out with.
And bits and and our usual goof and gag and bit is just talking about our podcast while on the podcast.
To the great consternation of you know who you are.
There's no such thing as a fourth wall. Come on.
As we were meta discussing the banter bit, my mind jumped back to last week as I was stuck on Secondhand Lions, and for some reason the actor name came into my head. I know for a fact this isn't his name, but Lee Harvey Osmond.
Lee Harvey.
I was like, no, that's not it.
Lee Harvey.
Like Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
What is it? Haley
Joel Oswald.
The octopus? You cannot find that cartoon anywhere on YouTube.
Oswald the octopus.
Yeah, and his dog Weenie.
I do vaguely remember being on in the background at I
think he was voiced by what's his
Nick
face
Jr.
from the Wonder Years.
By me? You're pointing at me.
No, but you like this actor. What's his name again? He was the kid in Princess Bride. What's that guy's name?
Fred Savage.
Fred Savage. I think he was voiced by Fred Savage.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't.
I found this out years after.
Oswald the octopus and his dog Weenie.
I was convinced for the longest time that I might have imagined this cartoon, and then I found a evasive clue on the internet that it did in fact exist.
Well, I remember that.
I have seen it. I didn't actively watch it. It was just there.
The weirdest cartoons on Nick Jr. were definitely the Roly-Poly-Oly robots.
Roly-Poly-Olies?
Yeah.
That was off the wall a little bit.
Yeah.
Once again, that's a thing I never saw.
Yeah.
I was aware of it because there was a trailer for the movie based on that show.
Oh, yeah.
On our VHS of Schoolhouse Rock.
There are so many movies I only know of because of VHS previews.
Right.
And it's a VHS. You can just rewind it to the point the movie starts and
But you don't think about that. You just rewind until it stops, and then you take it out of the VCR.
It's too much effort to sit there and watch it rewind, or even
Kids
try
these
to guess
days,
where it is if you do it on
What's the age bracket of our listeners? Old enough to know what a VHS is?
One of our two listeners knows what a VHS is for sure.
Oh, for sure.
The other probably
The other
does.
maybe. If only by exposure to the other listener.
Yep.
The ones of the two that are directly related to me probably know what VHSs are, given the fact that we grew up watching them because we were late 90s.
Because, imagine, with homeschool families from the early 2000s, just imagine where the average family was technologically and then rewind about 10 years and you're about there.
I mean, we had all of our VeggieTales on VHS until about Little Joe when that came out.
Oh yeah, the Ballad of Little Joe. I think that wasn't that the first one that was on DVD?
Was it the first one released on DVD? It's the first one we got on DVD.
Yeah, that one. I liked that one.
That one was really good.
I haven't seen that one in a long time. I haven't seen most of VeggieTales in a long time.
We had DVDs in the really early 2000s, 2001 and 2.
I remember getting our first DVD.
I think our family's first DVD was Finding Nemo.
Oh, really? That's a good one.
Well, the first one we got for the DVD player because my dad had a National Parks of America and Walking with Dinosaurs. those were the two other DVDs that we had at the house.
I remember we got the DVD player, and the first two movies we had were The Secret Garden and A Little Princess, like the ones from the
Shirley
early 2000s.
Temple. Okay. No.
We had the Shirley Temple ones on VHS.
The Little Princess I always thought was incredibly stupid.
Yeah, I just...
And not because it was a little princess and I was an 8-year-old boy, but just because, like, okay, so she goes to the attic now because her teacher hates her. This is dumb. Her teacher's stupid. Because her dad's dead. Oh, that means she's, screw her. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I don't remember very much of this, but that's the little bit I do remember. Like, they think her dad dies in the war or something, and so she's like, all right, we hate you now. So I don't really, it didn't register with me as a kid.
You get thrown in the orphan shack.
Was that what it was?
No, that's Series of Unfortunate Events where they have the orphan shack because they're orphans.
Yep.
Speaking of orphan shacks,
we're the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan,
and I'm Riley.
It's not really an orphan.
He's almost an orphan.
He's a for all practical purposes orphan.
At the beginning of the series, anyway.
He being Artemis Fowl.
And that being the subject of today's podcast.
Which is a novel idea. Oh, a novel idea. So yes. Who or what is Artemis Fowl?
Artemis Fowl is the
youngest the Greek goddess of hunting winged birds that are commonly found in water.
Isn't that a female name? It's used for both.
That's actually a point that
bit,
happens.
yeah.
Well, the goddess in Greek mythology is female, so
right. But I mean, the name.
That's part of the joke that I was going for.
Yeah.
Right. But this character is male.
Yes, he's a 12-year-old boy genius whose dad runs a criminal, his family has historically run a criminal empire.
Like out of
the Fowl family of Ireland.
FOWL.
Yes.
Not FOUL. You should be
Fowl.
able to read the title unless you make a pun on it. Depends on what James
This is an Audible podcast.
Yes.
Audible,
but
spelling.
not on Audible. Because that's a book thing.
Where can they find?
No.
All right, we're done.
We jumped the gun once. We're not doing it again.
No.
Anyway, so when we find, so you have Artemis Fowl, and then he lives in his house with his ailing mother. His father has gone missing, and then
his mother's
his
ailing
butler,
because his father's gone missing.
His bodyguard, Butler, the butler, who is his bodyguard.
Yes,
and his name is Butler. And apparently,
in case you didn't catch,
yes,
the butler,
because
who's also a bodyguard.
And according to legend, the word butler in the English language emerged from the Butler family because they have always served the Fowl family for generations. So Butler is a very stalwart, large bodyguard man, and then his little sister Juliet also lives at Fowl Manor.
Just kind of his extra help in the, kind of like as his mom's attendant at this stage.
Yeah. So his dad, Artemis Fowl Sr., has been trying to he's been trying to kind of shift his family's business dealings to more legitimate, legitimate avenues. But then he tried to sell soda or something like that, or pop or something in Russia, and the mafia didn't like that, so he's gone missing.
Yes.
Which incidentally was a real life thing that happened.
What?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I forget what. No, it was Pepsi that sold a bunch of cola to Russia, or was it Coke? I don't remember, but it's immaterial. But they were like the fourth most powerful navy in the world because they traded Pepsi for ships.
Yeah,
and so like
in
that exchange, they came out as like
they couldn't accept Russian currency,
right?
So Russia just paid them in old ships that they then sold for scrap.
They had the fourth largest navy in the world at the time, or something.
So it was kind of based on the real events of the time.
Minus the dad going missing.
Minus the dad. And the things that are about to happen next, because then Artemis gets fixated on a new scheme to try and find his dad, and it involves uncovering the secrets of the fairy folk that live among us.
Yeah.
Well, not among us, but
mostly the
underneath
Irish.
us. Mostly the Irish.
So, it turns out that many, many, many generations ago, there were the fairy peoples, because you have like the sprites and you have the
you got elves, you got dwarves, you've got gnomes,
all the
you've got
standard
all the
fairy
standard
tale things.
centaurs.
they used to
and
live in
pixies and stuff.
harmony with the humans, or the mud people, as the fairies.
As the people in quotes they call us.
Mm-hmm.
When everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Yes,
Yes.
the mud people were rather warlike and drove them underground, where they've been living and hiding ever since.
And just kind of not bothering us because they don't want to provoke us again.
Mm-hmm. Although occasionally they do have the LEP Recon Force, or Leprechaun for short.
The lower elements police, because they live underground. It's this
Mm-hmm.
whole thing.
So they will go onto the surface to kind of catch rogue fairies, or, keep people from discovering, the people, so they don't invade and destroy their home.
One of these LEP recon agents is Holly Short, who's like a young up and coming
First female officer on the force.
Yeah, and she's full of fire and grit and determination to make her career and work her way up.
Mm-hmm.
It starts.
A troll gets out of a vent by accident, and it's sort of this dumb brute creature, so it attacks a human village. So she and the rest of the crew have to go in and retrieve the troll and sort of mind wipe everyone, Men in Black style, and so they can pretend like it never happened. And the thing with fairies is that they can fly through the air because they'll vibrate at the right frequency, so that they look nearly invisible.
They don't fly because of that. They're invisible because of that.
Right.
They fly because they invented winged jetpacks.
Mm-hmm. Basically. So
because they have all their technology is powered by magic and stuff.
Yeah.
Which Holly is running out of because she hasn't done the little ritual to recharge her magic in a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of almost blows their mission.
Mm-hmm.
They managed to get the troll under control and bring it underground and stuff, but she gets reprimanded by her commanding officer to go recharge.
She kind of went on the mission in a rush and didn't recharge, yeah. So she goes off to, there's some specific places on Earth's surface that work particularly well for the ritual. So she goes to Tara in
prior to
Ireland.
this, we have to figure out how Artemis figures out what's going
So
on.
Artemis has been researching rumors about the people, but it's been sort of difficult because they are very good at covering their tracks. But he manages to track down this one fairy who's masquerading as like this fortune teller in India, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And then he trades basically the fairy Bible for
book.
Rice wine.
For some wine, yeah.
Because this fairy is an alcoholic. So he gets the book, as they call it, from her, and
somehow finds a way to translate it because he's a genius.
Yeah, he's a genius, and he uses some computer programs.
And in fact, the fairy language is 1-to-1 with the English alphabet.
Because of course it is.
And it's gnomish.
I spend way too much time as a child learning to read it.
That's right. They have little gnomish inscriptions on the bottom of the books that I haven't bothered to
translate it.
I haven't bothered to
I
Google
wonder
yet.
if I still could. I probably can't, but
yeah, I haven't bothered to Google it yet.
The little code book, guidebook upstairs that has the whole alphabet on there.
Anyway,
regardless, so Holly goes up to Ireland, and so
to do her little thing where she plants an acorn in the ground and gets her magic back.
Yep.
But who should be waiting for her at a perfectly magical restoring site than
Artemis and Butler, who tranquilize her and kidnap her and take her to the
Fowl Manor.
Yeah, Fowl Manor.
Yeah, they try and kidnap a leprechaun to steal her gold, as it were.
Yep, that is this...
because there's a ransom fund for every recon agent.
Mm-hmm. And that's where the pot of gold at the end of the Rainbow Legend came from, was that there is ransom gold to get the fairies back from the humans if something happens. But they don't give it up very easily because they always manage to do certain crazy fairy magic things to get both the hostage and the gold back.
Because now if there's a hostage situation, the entire LEP is on high alert. They got to extract her at any means.
You got Commander Root, who is a very cantankerous and
kind of old-fashioned recon agent, very hardened.
Yep, very hard-nosed.
And
Foley, the technical assistant, who is a centaur.
And he's the only guy who can afford to chastise Root because they can't fire him.
Absolutely indispensable.
Yeah, because he's
and he knows it, and he won't hesitate to wave it in front of their faces.
Yep.
It's funny.
So Artemis has a plan in place because he's read the book and now he knows what the LEP will do to get Holly back. And so he's basically set up this mental chess game to try to win the gold.
Right. They start with negotiations. He invites them in and talks to them. And
you have to invite a fairy in because of the rules in the book,
right.
or else they can't enter a dwelling.
Holly's okay because they kidnapped her, which is equivalent to
an invitation. Yep. Because if fairies break the rules, then they can't use magic.
Yeah.
And
if you... Yeah.
Which was the case with the fairy that they stole the book from.
Right.
So yeah, there's a hostage situation develops, and so the LEP sets up a time stop circle around Fowl Manor
and just kind of lays siege to it.
Mm-hmm.
They've got all their guys on the outside trying to force their way in.
Yep.
But after a couple of tries, they bring in...
Well, they managed to jerry-rig Holly's equipment that they stole off of her so that Butler can see the fairies as they're coming, can see through their shimmer, as they call it, that they makes them go invisible. And so he managed to, because fairies are like maybe 3 feet tall at the tallest, so he managed to kind of wipe the floor with the SWAT team that initially came in. Man. Yep. So Artemis is like, Butler, I would prefer frightened to dead, preferably.
If at all possible.
If possible. So the siege is kind of going more or less as Artemis has planned. You know, he's always like a couple steps ahead.
But then the fairies decide to throw a couple monkey wrenches.
It's like, all right, he's playing by the book, but we don't always play by the book.
Well, one fairy in particular named Mulch Diggums is a dwarf who is a bit of a kleptomaniac and has been arrested very much a criminal times. And very much doesn't have magic anymore. So it's like there's no repercussions for sending him in. He's not going to lose anything. So
dwarves are in this universe.
Very interesting.
They basically eat dirt and
they can like unhinge their jaw like a snake and just like
they dig through the dirt like a worm does.
And then air pockets build up in them and they need to release it rather violently every so often and sort of weaponize it. So they send Mulch in there to try to get do they send in, I believe they send the ransom gold in, but they're like
No, not yet.
Okay.
They send Mulch in to go try and
burrow
get
into
Holly
the basement
and figure out what's going on.
Meanwhile, Holly has been trying to break loose, and fairies have this ability called the mesmer, where they mesmerize you with their words, and like looking you in the eye. But Artemis and the rest get away from this because they're wearing reflective glasses.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mulch breaks into the house and then incapacitates Butler with a fart. And so starts throwing Artemis's plans a little out of whack.
And Holly, I believe, at this point manages to crack through the cement in the basement and bury her acorn to get her magic back. So now she's kind of wild card.
Running wild in the house.
And then they add one more wild card on top of everything.
Yep.
Remember that troll they caught at the beginning of
Command
the book?
thinks that Root is taking too long, so his rival from the academy has got sent in there, and he sends in a troll, which are very large, very violent beasts. And so they send in the troll after them to kind of make a mess, and then they will...
and hoping that Artemis and company will surrender.
But things don't go quite as planned, and the... troll kind of goes hog wild and kills Butler, and
until Holly does some healing magic on him.
Well, Holly tries to fight, and then the thing knocks her out, just so she happens to be, her hand is resting on Butler, so her magic jumps from, as it's healing her, also jumps to Butler and heals him.
And then Butler just wipes the floor with this troll.
Because it's going after his sister, and he's like, all right.
Big brother mode activated. Yep. Let's go.
And he's kind of a monster of or a giant of a man himself. So, and meanwhile, the LEP are just kind of watching in admiration.
Disbelief.
Yeah. It's like, he just took out a troll. Okay, well.
So at this point, they've kind of exhausted the LEP's resources and tricks. And it's like, okay, we're going to give you the gold, but then we're going to, like, fairy nuke the house.
Which is called a blue rinse, where it was like selenium or something, destroys every biological thing within a radius.
Mm-hmm.
And
but Artemis has figured out a way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because actually earlier when they were like doing the negotiations, he's like, so long as I'm alive, you can never come in, which they interpret as, well, we're invited in if we kill him. So
yep.
So
So we can go in and get Holly. And I think Holly hasn't like left yet, partially because of the troll, and now she's kind of trapped too with the blue rinse coming in.
No, it doesn't come in until after she leaves and they've exchanged.
Oh, that's right.
gold.
Yep.
But Artemis, also in Foul Manor, was his mother, but she's not there anymore now that the time stop is active, because apparently people who are asleep don't get caught in the time stop. They just exist outside of it.
Yep.
So Artemis, Butler, and Juliet all take sleeping pills that forcefully knock them out, and they escape the time stop, escape the blue rinse, and get away with the gold.
But Mulch has gone rogue and gotten rid of his tracker that the LEP put on him and stole some of the gold.
He ended up stealing some of the gold.
And he gets away.
And Artemis ends up giving some of the gold back in exchange for a wish of sorts from Holly, who
restores his mother's sanity.
health.
Yep. Because she's been distraught since her husband got kidnapped and stuff. All of a sudden, and then the LEP leaves, assuming that they killed everyone. Let's see, and then Artemis, I think if a human wins the gold, they get to keep it, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Right. No. What happened was they rinsed the house, tried to walk in because they were invited, but they weren't because he's still alive. That's how they knew, and they gave up. That's kind of the end of the first book.
Yep.
This is a series of 8 books,
Yeah.
of which
I've
James
only
has
read
only
the first 4.
couple.
I'm midway through the 5th
So
one.
we're only going to cover the first 4 here. We might do the second half later.
We might not even cover the next 3 books because they're kind of just fun adventures with we can like briefly summarize them, not quite in as much details.
So the second book,
The Arctic Incident.
yes,
Which
this one's important.
Artemis is still in search of his dad, and
that's the plot.
Yep.
We go to Russia.
But there's also, meanwhile, while they're doing this, there's also a attempted coup going on. So Foley has this rival scientist genius down under named Opal Cowboy, and she and Cudgeon, who was Commander Root's rival, who got sacked for sending a troll after humans and it going crazy wrong. They are banding together to sort of overthrow the LEP and take over the city underground. What was it called again?
New Haven.
New Haven. Yep.
With the
Not
help.
Connecticut.
No.
Yeah, no. Or was it just called Haven?
It might have been Haven. I think it was Haven. Anyway, so
okay.
they're trying to take over and very cloak and dagger and make it look like it's Foley's fault. I think things start going wrong, and they think that Artemis is behind it or something, so they send Holly up to investigate and talk to him. He's like, wasn't me. Oh, yeah, because goblins, which are kind of dumb, have all of a sudden gotten these powerful, deadly weapons. Because the LEP have lasers, but they aren't lethal per se. They can be, but they never use them that way. But
but like the goblins don't they have like nuclear powered?
Yeah, they have these lasers that will kill you, and they're being powered by AA batteries.
Oh, right.
And AA batteries are outlawed.
Technology.
Yeah, it's human technology. So some human on the surface is giving these goblins weapons.
And
As an aside, it is Haven City.
okay,
yeah, Haven City. So they're like, well, we better make sure. There's only one human we know that knows about the people, so let's go talk to Artemis and see what it's all about and bring him in.
He's like, you know what? I don't know who did this. I didn't do this, but I can help you figure it out if you help me.
Yep. So he helps them figure it out.
Figure it out.
Do they face off with Opal first, or do they go find his dad first?
They face off with Opal first.
Okay.
So they Artemis, using his brains and Butler's brawn, they figure out that, and then with Mulch Diggums, who they manage to, basically recruit from hiding because he sort of became a kleptomaniac on the surface, pretending to be human and made.
Became.
He always was.
Yeah.
Is this
He
the
just
one where he
did
becomes the Grouch, or is it a
kleptomaniac
different one?
Huh?
Was this the one where he's the Grouch, or is it a different one? Because there's one where he steals where we meet
He's
Mulch,
just-
and
he's
he's
just
stealing
stealing
Oscars.
Oscars.
He's
Yeah.
got almost a full
From Hollywood.
collection.
I think it's this one.
Okay.
So they recruit him to help them break into Opal's thing because at this point, they've unleashed the master plan attack on the LEP, and she has wiggled her way into their system, so she deactivated all their weapons.
Well,
and
because she's a supplier of weapons.
Mhm.
Her company
and
is
a rival to Foley, and
Right.
Foley is meanwhile locked in his bunker by her because stuff. Anyway, so Artemis, Holly, Butler, and Mulch break into the Cowboy laboratories and foil the plot to take over. Cudgeon dies, and Opal is taken to prison.
Mhm.
And that's the end of book 2. Well,
Not
and
the end
then
of book 2. Then they
and then
go to
Holly's like,
Russia.
"All right, let's go to Russia. We got to make this quick because there's a lot of radiation, and fairies are even more sensitive to radiation than humans. So we got to make this quick."
Mhm.
Things don't go quite right. Well, no, they try to find his dad. Things go wrong. They go to the surface, foil the plan, then they go back.
Well, they go underground because
Yeah.
there was like goblins attacked them on a train in Russia earlier in the book, right?
Yep,
That was the thing.
cooling them off that something's not quite right under the surface.
Right.
Anyway, so they rescue Artemis's dad from the Russian mafia by pretending to assassinate him and freaking out the Russians. And then Holly swoops in and grabs the dad and takes him back and sort of manages to somewhat heal him with her magic, although
As best she
his
can.
leg's gone. So now their deal's done, and
They leave with a newfound mutual respect.
and Artemis has both of his parents back now.
Which makes scheming and conniving and doing his own underhanded, under the table
Because
deals a lot harder.
His parents want things to be all on the up and up, so he has to kind of do it when they're not paying attention. But he's also sort of wants to live a normal life as a kid, but he's
'Cause
torn.
he's like what, 13 in this book?
Yeah. So
He's just kind of a kid that on a
So
base
he's-
level wants that, but also he's just
he needs the mental stimulation of
pulling another big
schemes.
job.
Schemes and
Which is the thing he tries to do in the next book, the Eternity Code.
So in the Eternity Code, Artemis has sort of pilfered some fairy technology and melded it with human technology to create this supercomputer cube that can hack anything and give you any information
No,
instantly.
it's definitely not the Tesseract. Nope.
No.
Nope.
There's
Well,
no
it's
way.
not an infinity cube.
No way.
Anyway.
It's an Eternity Cube.
So
not an
he tries
Infinity
to
Cube.
blackmail one of the world's leading technology company execs. He's like, if you pay me a lot of money, I'll keep this off the market for a while. Otherwise, I'll run you guys all out of business.
But instead, things go south, and he's like, "What if I just take it and kill Butler? How about
Yep,
that?"
I kill you two. Because everybody in this diner that they're meeting in has been hired, and they all have guns, and they're all pointing them at Artemis. So they use a fairy grenade to incapacitate everyone except for a few of the people. And then this guy's what is the name of the villain in this one?
It's probably on the thing that you have. Open.
The Eternity Code, John Spyro.
Yes, that's
And the C cube is the device that
Right.
Anyway, so things go south, and Spyro's bodyguard kills Butler as he is like jumping in front of a bullet to save Artemis.
Mm-hmm.
So Artemis,
He's in a tight spot at this point. He's
yeah,
like, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna throw Butler in the freezer
to try
and keep him intact enough to be healed by fairy magic.
Mm-hmm. So he baits Holly to the surface, and he's like, "Hey, actually, I need." Well, he rents a cryo-freeze thing quick because he has a lot of money because all this fairy gold. He rents a cryo-freeze thing meant for rich people, and then baits Holly to the surface by triggering like one of their fairy surveillance satellites or something that Foley has set up.
They have human communications monitored,
Mm-hmm.
right? To looking for keywords and stuff, and he just spams every gnomish word he knows in it just to get their attention.
Yep. So Holly comes up and agrees to help Butler because of their friendship, and manages to mostly heal him. It's a very difficult process.
Aging him actually a couple of
Yeah,
years.
it took some of his life force because of the catastrophic damage he suffered when he died. And also because a little bit of the Kevlar from his bulletproof vest was in the wound, he now has part of his chest is made of Kevlar, so it's hard for him to breathe, and he's not quite as scrappy as he used to be.
He's also not terribly happy with Artemis at this point, because it's like, you
He's
just
like,
got me killed, and
you
being
need to
dead,
quit with the
you know,
schemes and be more responsible as a person.
so now, yeah, he's...
And over time, Artemis has kind of gone softer and softer as this, and into more of a decent person as these stories have gone on.
He doesn't like to show it.
No, but it's there. So with Holly's help, and then Juliet, who kind of takes over the butlering for Butler while he's recuperating, they all hatch a scheme, or a heist basically, with the help of Mulch, of course.
Because who else do you
That's
call?
what he does. To steal the C-Cube back from John Spyro.
So he doesn't have just this fairy technology he can reverse engineer.
Because Artemis put an eternity code to lock the C-Cube so that it can't be used by humans, but they're trying to they're trying to break the code. So they do the heist, they manage to get the C-Cube back, and they get John Spyro sent to jail. I forget how exactly that went down, but yeah, that happens. So they get the cube back, and they're like, all right, well, you know too much about us.
And this type of scenario proves that your knowledge of us is dangerous to both of us. So how about we just mind wipe you?
And they're like, all right, okay, I guess that's the price I
we have
agreed to pay.
agree.
So they do the mind wipe, kind of.
Yeah, Artemis, as per usual, has found a back door out. He doesn't make himself remember everything,
but he managed to
not like tell them everything before.
Yeah. So he managed to put a bunch of his memories on this disc that he gives in cases in gold, safe. And he's like, here, keep this necklace and meet me in a couple of years. He leaves like a secret message for Mulch in there. Meet me in a couple of years, and have me look at this disc so I can remember everything. So yes, in the next book, The Opal Deception,
which is the last one we'll talk about today, because you're not in depth anyway.
Yeah. Holly and Commander Root are investigating some weird things going on in basically the ghettos of the underworld, as it were, and turns out they were lured into a trap by Opal, who managed to fake she faked being in a coma. She was basically just meditating for a long time, and then had some associates of hers slip a clone of her, which is illegal and highly unethical, so that's why it's illegal, into her straitjacket, basically, in the facility she's being imprisoned in, and she escapes with the help of these two, and plans to wreak her revenge, and so she plans to kill everyone who is responsible for putting her there in very just devastating ways.
And then reveal the fairy populace to the overworld, and
turn herself into a human so she can be part of the New World Order, because she's very smart. She just wants to take over the surface and wipe out the old world. So that's a big threat, obviously. So
like,
she,
hey,
she traps Holly and Root and turns off everything but the security cameras. There's no sound. And she's like, hey, if you shoot this box that's stuck to Root's chest before it explodes, it'll deactivate it. But he's like, no, just kidding. You just shot the box. Now it looks like you killed your boss. So Holly, the whole LEP, thinks that she just killed Commander Root. So she's on the run. But she knows that Opal is after Artemis and Butler, who don't really remember anything at this point. Right. So she flies to the surface to try and save them.
Does she recruit Mulch first? Or do they recruit him after?
Later on, I think.
Okay.
So meanwhile, Artemis, forgetting everything about fairies at this point, is off to a scheme again.
Just kind of stealing old art and stuff.
Unbeknownst to him, this old art triggers a blue rinse bomb to come after him in their hotel. Butler manages last minute to grab a mattress and then jump them out of a window before the nuke hits their hotel room, because Butler instincts. And
although he's not feeling quite how he used to, and he's not sure why.
Yeah. So Holly manages to arrive, and her gear gets destroyed because there's a second fairy nuke that comes, and that she manages to contain with her with her helmet or something like that.
Hmm.
And but now she's off on her own, and they're being hunted down by Opal, and she thinks that Artemis and Butler are dead, but she discovers them. They're very much alive. But Artemis has some broken ribs or whatever because they just jumped from several stories up, and Butler's unconscious, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she heals Artemis and then takes him to a location, and she's just like, Butler will find us eventually. And she's like, okay, Artemis, I need your help, and you don't remember who I am. But he has sort of echoes of memories.
Right.
You don't know who I am, but you need to help me. He's like, I don't know why, but I understand this, so yeah, let's go with it. So Butler finds them, and they have to make their way back down to the fairy city to try to stop Opal and clear Holly's name.
Mm-hmm.
So they manage to find Mulch,
who gives Artemis the disc, and he spends quite a bit of time, figuring things out.
He and Butler go through and watch the videos and realize, and are able to jog their memories and get all their memories back.
For the most part, yeah.
Although, well, not before, like Holly and Artemis are captured by.
Oh yeah,
and they're trapped in like this abandoned theme park in the underworld that is inhabited entirely by trolls.
Yeah, they have.
So Opal's like, I'm just gonna let you die here, and then Butler gets his memories back. Like Mulch finds him,
right,
and then gives him his memories back, and so Mulch and Butler rescue Holly and Artemis. It was funny because Artemis, like, when they're about to die, he pretends like he remembers to make Holly feel better, and she's like, if you didn't sound so sincere, I'd believe you. He's like, I thought it would work, but okay. But anyway, they managed to get rescued and hatch up another plot with Artemis's brains once he gets his memories back to foil Opal's plan. So she has been manipulating this human scientist to send a probe deep into the earth that is bound to, discover the fairy city.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are kind of against the clock. So they manage to get into a fight with Opal and stop the bomb, or no, stop the probe from reaching the city, and then Opal is forced to leave for the surface. Mm-hmm. And because she's trying to turn herself into a human, she can't use magic anymore. Mm-hmm. So she's off on the run.
She's kind of just trapped up there with some random family she accidentally lumped herself with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we leave her in that book.
Yep. And Holly manages to get her name cleared, but then she's like, I can't work for the LAP anymore because this new commander is nothing like Root, and so I need to go off and be a private eye now. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, it's clear we can't wipe your mind again, Artemis, because A, that would kind of mess you up, B, you would find a way around it. So we're just going to, he's just like, I'll be your guy in the human world to make sure that nobody discovers you. And so that's basically where we're left at the end of book 4.
There's 4 more books. One involves...
I'm partway through book 5.
Yeah, with the demon colony and the genius girl that's about Artemis's age. That's like, oh, you're... and then Artemis is feeling the first effects of being a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's fun. They reintegrate the demons into the
which is another
society after,
which aren't plot. like satanic demons, but like
a class
a fairy race that's been sort of.
There's in the one after, Artemis's mom gets a disease that can only be cured by an enzyme in a lemur that went extinct because of one of Artemis's schemes several years ago. So they had to time travel back to get the lemur, but then they also have a run-in with not only young Artemis but also a young Opal Kaboy. So that's fun. There's one where Artemis develops a multiple personality disorder, and because he's like it's basically like a fairy like guilt-based syndrome called the Atlantis complex, and there's
because Atlantis is a fairy city.
Yes, of course it is. Mostly
by semi-aquatic fairies,
right? And that I forget. Oh yeah, the main antagonist of that was like Captain Root's estranged brother or something like that. Then the last one has like this world-ending doomsday spell that Opal wants to
Unleash.
but Artemis ends up spoilers, I guess. He ends up sacrificing his life to stop it, but not really, because he had a backup plan.
Of course he did.
So yeah, that's kind of the overview of the rest of the series.
Yep. So I guess what do we like about Artemis Fowl?
Riley, you want to start? We've all read it.
Sure. It's been a really long time since I've read them.
It's been a couple years for me, too.
I have been reading these 4 books in the last 3 weeks.
But I would say the thing I find the most cool about it is just this very interesting juxtaposition of kind of modern day 2007 technology, brainy kid against this
Fairies.
ancient mythological society, which is also like
very technologically
very
advanced,
high tech, but also
like
magic is
tech.
woven into all of that.
Underground
it's just a
Wakanda.
very cool like clash of cultures and like ways of living. This fairy tale meets real life kind of thing.
They sort of are square off against each other, but have mutual respect.
I also I like how they take a lot of the tropes and common ideas in those fairy tales, but gives them like a weird explanation in universe,
kind of akin to like the whole thing in The Hobbit, where like he
like,
knocked the goblin's head off and it flew into a gopher hole, and that's how golf was invented.
Right,
There's a bunch of
like,
those little asides.
How Leprechaun is a misspelling of Lower Elements Police Reconnaissance
And the
Unit.
classic Leprechaun look was a disguise that they had during that time
That was just
period.
the old uniform.
That was just the old
That
uniform.
was just the old uniform.
And they got rid of those ridiculous outfits for more professional looking gear.
Right, but also like just it explains other little fairy things. That's like it gives it a silly little character behind it. Like the reason Artemis knew that he could escape the time stop by falling asleep is because back in the day there was a king that was basically Santa Claus who time stopped the whole world and delivered gifts to appease the humans.
I forgot about that.
And that
Yep.
So stuff like that. Just really kind of fun and creative use of fairy tropes.
And then there's Mulch, who is a troll, but he's a dwarf. But he likes to razz people, and he gets a kick out of it, especially Root.
I think in general the characters are one of the most fun things about this series.
Yes, very colorful characters.
Just like really enjoyable to read. Even the incidental minor characters. You got Grub and Trouble Kelp, who are like 2 Lower Elements police
one's
officers.
the little brother and is constantly complaining about everything, and the other one's kind of a go-getter
who literally renamed himself to Trouble just so that he could be
Sound
that
cool.
kind of a cool guy.
Yep. But he's legit kind of a good officer.
Yeah, when he's not showing off to impress people. And then like Holly's lackeys are funny. Spyro's lackeys were funny. Just really
the whole Disneyland thing.
Oh yeah. They all
Disney-
just love Disneyland because it's easy to disguise themselves.
it's the one place they can go without having to disguise themselves.
Yep.
Just fun characters, and Foley's also really fun. The chemistry between him and Commander Root is just they lay into each other so hard. It's so funny.
Root gets very uptight and grumpy,
He's
but
like an old military man. He's got his cigar made of whatever,
Like fungus or something
fungal,
like that.
fungus root or whatever. Just they're absolutely pungent, but
I think they're
No one
described
can-
that way 7
but
different times in the book.
he took a chance on Holly, who's a really really good officer and stuff, and
he becomes
sort
like
of his protege.
Yeah, he becomes
by
a
the end of
father
it.
figure mentor to her.
Yeah. And by the end,
he's still hard on her, and he's really hard on her because he wants
she
her
keeps
to do
getting
so
into
well.
trouble.
But she also does keep getting into trouble because
Always with Artemis too.
yeah, that ends up happening.
Yeah. But by the end of it, when he dies, like he wants her. He kind of was saying, if they offer you to take my place, you should do it. But because she was suspected of killing him, that didn't exactly happen. But he's been a mentor to her, and she really is devastated when he dies.
Because she pretty much lost the only family she has at this point.
Yeah.
I think one of the only less than stellar characters for me was Opal.
Yeah.
She's kind of
she's
like,
kinda flat.
I'm here to
Egomaniacal.
provide the evil,
Yeah.
to be the bad.
But it's a kid slash
and it is
It's a
also
young
kind of a
adult
fairy
novel.
tale
Youth novel,
trope.
yeah.
That it's just like this generically bad thing that
hmm
keeps popping up. And
She's
doing
written
bad things.
entertainingly in her own right.
Yeah,
as
I
well.
mean she's funny, but she's just
She's
like
not particularly
a
interesting.
static.
She's too smart for her own good. Like that's where her comeuppances usually come from. Because even though she is very smart, like Artemis always manages a way to foil
Find
her
like
plans.
one little chink in her armor, as it
Mhm.
were.
Precisely. Yeah, I think probably Butler is probably my favorite character.
Butler is so good.
He's just very stalwart and like a kind of a father figure
one
to
part
Artemis.
dad, one part older brother to Artemis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he literally gets his dad back in the second book. So.
Yep.
But like for a while, it was just Artemis and Butler against the world.
Yep.
So
So at first he kind of serves him, unquestioningly, but then
and dutifully, like
and dutifully,
it's his
but
job.
then like especially in the first book when they start doing kind of sketchy
It's-
stuff like kidnapping a fairy, he's
It's
like,
this. I thought we were gonna.
this feels kind of wrong.
He's like, I thought this was gonna be more like a creature or a monster, like it's a fairy, right?
This
But no,
is-
she's just kind of a person.
Mm-hmm. I
And-
feel kind of bad about this, and so he's sort of Artemis's conscience after a while.
Right. Before Artemis starts to develop maybe a little bit of his own.
Mm-hmm. Which he does eventually.
Yeah.
Because at first he's driven by criminal enterprises and gold and power.
But also by
gold
a
is power is the
child's
family motto.
desire to have a mom that functions.
Yeah.
And a dad in his life.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, so it's he's got sort of some complex motivations at first, but by book 3 or 4, he's kind of become a more well-rounded person and
But
uses
he becomes that by the end of book 3, but then they hit the reset button on him.
Yeah, and so they have to kind of start over a little bit again until he gets his memories back.
I also find the little messages in the Gnomish very interesting to read.
What do those say?
They're just like random kind of tidbits of lore, and
Because wasn't like in the first book or something, there were these two guys who were like following the events and were like, yeah, we're totally going to write this all down. We're historians or something like that. We're going to make a bestseller book.
Right, they were doing an interview with like the people involved. That was like the
Mhm.
framing device of the first book.
Mm-hmm. And sort of embellishing it to make themselves look good as authors.
Mm-hmm.
But and like Artemis, this guy's bad news. But yeah. So I guess
Those are some of the cool things, I guess.
yeah,
yeah,
we'll get into more of those in the transcendental analysis. So yes, truth. What are some truths we can pull out of the Artemis Fowl series? I think Artemis has changed from being driven by gold and power and using his mind and abilities to exploit and use others
Mm-hmm.
versus
Serving others.
serving others and being a good friend and putting himself at the service of others and being able to protect a whole race of people, really.
Crime doesn't pay.
Yeah.
except when it does,
Except when it
but in the
does.
long run,
Not really.
no.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a villain's redemption arc,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
'Cause he was
Artemis
kind of a
starts
villain
the
at the
first
beginning.
book as a villain, and for the first part of the second book, he's still kind of a villain.
Mm-hmm.
He may be the protagonist and the main character, but that doesn't mean he's the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
But
Not
like
until later.
not until later, no. But but his redemption and coming to terms with his own redemption in a way
Mm-hmm.
is really kind of cool to see, cool to watch.
Yeah. Let's see, what else would there be? And I guess
Zootopia before there was Zootopia.
kind of, yeah.
There is kind of a little bit of a race thing in there, isn't there?
A little bit.
A little bit of a race thing, a little bit of a female officer thing. a
Yeah.
little bit of a-
It's like
Anyway, let's see, what are some other truths we can pull.
so yeah, that's the closest Disney ever came to making an Artemis Fowl movie, isn't it?
We do not speak of the movie.
Well, we
Zootopia
haven't
was a
seen
better
it.
Artemis Fowl movie than
Than
the
Artemis Fowl movie.
Oh, wait,
We don't want to
I
give
haven't
them
seen it. I just don't care to give it the watch time on Disney Plus because it's like
By all accounts, it completely abandons.
If you were listening to this synopsis and you were like, "Wait, that's not what happened in the movie."
Yes,
I know.
You want to know what's not true? What they did in the movie? Probably we don't know. This could be a salt cast if we watch the movie, but we ain't watching the movie. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Goodness, what is good in Artemis Fowl?
What is good, my dude?
Yeah.
No, Butler's character.
Yes.
His stalwart.
Juliet. Oh, she's fun.
She's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he's like one of those shining beacons of goodness in this series.
And Holly as well. And Root.
Root and Holly's relationship
his
and
rough
his
edges.
mentorship of that.
I wouldn't say everything Holly ever does is good, but
Nah.
like her as a person and as a in her arcs, you know, she definitely expresses that goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Butler's slowly becoming Artemis's conscience and going to the point of taking a bullet for him, even though it's what his job prescribes. He at that point was also doing it out of love for Artemis as a person, you know. And also he's very family first. Him and Juliet
he's willing to
tight.
take out a troll that's going after his little sister.
Dude, that's one of the coolest.
That was one of the coolest.
That's like
moments.
the coolest moment in the whole series, I'd say.
Yeah, and the fairies are just kind of like
they give him a wide berth after that.
Yeah,
of course he's doesn't fit in most of their stuff, so
and it's kind of implied like the fairies like Butler more than they like Artemis.
They put up with Artemis because Foley doesn't like not being the smartest person in the room.
Yeah. And Artemis is like changed from greed and power to self-sacrifice and
focus on friends and family and the greater good of the world, you know.
And
we all
abandoning
about
selfishness.
The greater good.
Greater good.
I'm the greatest good you're ever going to get.
Incredibles is so good.
Yeah.
Another an episode on the Incredibles.
We'll get there.
We'll get there eventually.
Beauty. What is beautiful about these books?
Well, it's a book, so
it's very accessibly written.
Yes,
I mean,
fun to read.
It is kind of a, middle school exile level, but it still holds up in terms of entertainment value.
The quality of the entertainment, right?
Yeah, it's cleverly written. The dialogue is great.
Oh yeah, I think again, that's the character work in this series in general is just usually really fun to watch. If not particularly deep, always fun.
Yeah.
I think one of the coolest beauty elements is some of the descriptions of like the Irish natural countryside, especially at Tara. It's just like,
and like the fairies,
pristine,
they're longing for the surface.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of in exile.
Because they like nature. They're like the magic system comes from the earth.
They're very
nature,
connected,
right?
yeah, and they're sort of cut off and longing for the surface, yeah.
It's just very Irish. The author is an Irishman, so
and much of the story takes place in Ireland. That's where Fowl Manor is.
Yeah, and where fairies, one of the biggest collection of shoots from the.
Oh yeah, because they ride thermal vents to the surface,
right,
in special pods. That's how the fairies travel.
Well, to the surface.
To the surface, yeah. So
yeah, there's.
What unites Artemis Fowl? What is the unity in Artemis Fowl?
Well, each individual book is kind of self-contained.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like an episode, very episodic.
Episodic, yeah. I mean, the characters are the through line, obviously.
Right. And the characters do stay very consistent, and the changes made to the characters carry over with them. You definitely see this growth from one onward. I would say that maybe Unity isn't this series' strongest suit.
No.
But I think it's all themed very much around the whole idea of like modern day fairies and the
boy genius who needs to keep his maniacal or not maniacal, but his sort of evil side, because like his family has been in the crime business for generations, and so he, like his father is trying to buck that trend. He's trying to buck that trend kind of, but he doesn't really want to, so it's a bit of a struggle. But yeah, good stuff. Can recommend. It's a good read.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
And now you need to read Airman. That's been sitting on top of your on PC for like 6 months.
Yep, I do need to read
Same
that.
author.
Same author, but not universe.
No.
Definitely not.
Okay. I'll get to that. But you guys, I suppose, have other things you need to get to. So, thank you for listening to the Palladium Papers. You can listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts
Except not for right now.
when we get it fixed. And follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Palapapus when we maybe will post someday. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, or suggestions for future episodes, email us at thepalladiumpapus at gmail.com.
Email us.
Email
Emphasis
us.
on the email.
Email us at palladiumpapus at gmail.com.
Thanks to shout out to John for actually emailing.
Engaging the official channels. Look at
what
us.
email
Baby
was it?
Trailblazers.
Oh,
let's be real.
We discussed it last week.
Oh,
Trailblazers, though. Let's be real. The first suggestion and then the first listener emails.
the first two.
Yeah, the first two. So I guess we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
There are fairy swear words. Thank you for listening to the end of the podcast. You now know that Darvit is the most common.
Change.